Competition can take many forms, including fantasy. Now there's fantasy sports, but then there's also just plain fantasy. Let's check it out.
My name is Mike Guptill. I'm with a company called Professional Event Services, and our job or responsibility here is to facilitate organized play for Wizards of the Coast in Columbus, specifically all of Ohio, but Columbus especially. Magic the Gathering was founded by a math professor about 18 years ago, and it started off as kind of a small cult game where there was just a kind of word of mouth, started on slowly creeping in the internet when the internet started becoming popular. But it started at a gaming convention up in Wisconsin called Gen Con. And players mostly learned about it through word of mouth.
My name's Patrick Chapin. I'm a professional Magic player, and I work for StarCityGames.com as a writer. And I guess I just travel around playing cards and writing about it, you know?
So you live a tragically lonely existence?
No. I have an opportunity to travel around the world doing what I love for a living, and I'm very, very thankful for it.
That's terrific.
Well, the game has a lot more layers to it than most games, I guess you could say. It's a little bit like a combination of poker and chess. Poker in that you play with the cards you draw, but chess in that each card's like a different piece. And it's much more of a strategy game. There's no gambling involved or anything like that. It's just the different cards you draw give you a variety of different options. Like some of the cards are more like chess pieces on the field, or on the table where you're actually playing, and some of the other cards you can play at certain times to do things like draw extra cards or change the combat a little bit. It's basically it's a strategy game, you know.
These cards are works of art. I mean, obviously that's
actually a big part of the game for a lot of people, because not only do people play a strategy game with them.
Actually, can we turn these?
Oh, absolutely. Not only do people play a strategy game with them, they collect the cards sort of like baseball cards. I mean, some people just like the artwork. Other people will be interested in the card as a collectible because some of the cards are much more rare than others. Some of the more recent rare cards end up being worth as much as $50 or even $100, and some of the old cards that are sort of like the Babe Ruth or Mickey Mantle cards of the game, there are cards worth thousands of dollars in this game. Now those cards are very, very rare and collectible, but they don't get played in very many tournaments because most tournaments you can't even use them because they figure there's so few of them in the world that it wouldn't be fair to let the few people who have them play them and everything, you know?
Right. So essentially the cards represent actions and players in the game, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the cards let you are like pieces you can attack with, and some of the cards are pieces that can get rid of your opponent's pieces or let you draw extra cards or in some way change the game.
Okay. One
of the classic things about this game is that even though the primary rule is that you're trying to reduce your opponent's score from 20 down to 0, each card changes the rules in some way. You know, some of the cards will make it so that people draw twice as many cards from now, and some of the cards will make it so that that you can attack twice as much. The competitive circuit is a little bit like golf in the sense that you get invited to tournaments depending on how highly ranked you are, and you don't pay anything to enter the tournament at the top levels. You know, at the lower levels, where you're working your way up to the top, there are entry fees, and people try to win slots to qualify for the state level or the nationwide level or the world class level. And I play at the very highest level at the world championship level events, and where they end up having like $300,000 in prizes at each event. And yeah, I mean, best weekend I ever had was $30,000, and when I came in second at the World Championships a couple years ago.
So, what's the occasion here today? How many people do you have? What's the purpose of this particular event?
Well, Magic the Gathering comes out with new sets every year, and as a reward for its players and their loyalty, Wizards of the Coast organizes events called pre-releases. Basically meaning, before it goes out for sale to people, we're going to put together these large groups of shows around the country, and this is one of 30 Magic the Gathering regional pre-releases in the country today.
How many people do you have here today, do you suppose?
Today we have, we're going to end up having about 400 through the door.
I'm Steve Prescott. I'm a Magic the Gathering artist, and what they do is when they have events, they invite an artist or two or three to come in and help get more people into the building, I guess. So I come here and sell my wares, my original artwork, my artist proofs and my prints, and hope to make some beer money by the end of the day.
So are you from Columbus?
Yes. Yeah.
Where do you exhibit your work otherwise?
Obviously on the internet, but depends on what shows I'm going to. I go to like 2 or 3 conventions a year, and maybe 1 or 2 of these Magic pre-release or Grand Prix events a year.
So for somebody who's very interested in this at this point as a result of watching this video and they want to get started and learn more, what would you recommend? How do you get into this?
All right, well, if you've never seen the game before at all, one of the best places to start is www.wizards.com. If you go to www.wizards.com, there's an instruction. There's like an instructional, a tutorial. There's like a video you can watch that explains the basics, and there's links that can point out the very, very fundamental things that will let you get started at the game.
There's tournaments, large tournaments that'll be held around the country called Grand Prix. They're held around, there's 6 in the U.S. this year. There's also some outside the country. In fact, there's a Grand Prix in Columbus in July of this year, and the total cash prize for that's about $30,000. Which is a pretty good prize for playing a card game, right?